everyone. Hello. It's a weird thing, isn't it? The second day of a 2-day conference, there just seems to be less people actually wake up in time to come to the conference. But I was with some people last night, having a couple of Coca-Colas, some Dutch colleagues, and as I arrived, they're talking in Dutch, and as they arrived, I kind of walked up, and there was this moment, they all stopped talking, and they said, "Oh, we have to talk in English now." And I was like, "I'm really sorry. Like, I don't speak any other language." So my first thing I want to say is each year I come to this, I am so impressed, and I'm not trying to be sycophantic here, I'm so impressed at watching everyone present, nearly everyone, in their second language. I mean, it's hard enough doing it in your first language, as you're about to find out, right? But doing it in your second language, unbelievable. So thank you very much. As Alexi said, I'm going to talk to you very briefly about workplace. Now, I'm going to promise a few things. I'm not going to promise there's going to be a lot of information in here. There's not many graphs. There's not much evidence. I know I'm surrounded by academics at the minute who are going to say, support your arguments. I've not got much to support my argument. I'm just going to argue. I'm just going to shout real loud and hope that you take that in. Mark Eltringham yesterday spoke about the workplace debate and it being quite an emotive subject. Yeah, you're about to get that because I'm very passionate about this. What I will promise you is that some of this you will disagree with, I'm sure. Some of this you might violently disagree with. Some of it might feel a little uncomfortable. It's going to be challenging, okay? But that's a good thing. At least I hope so anyway. And at the end we can all attack me outside. So, as Mark mentioned yesterday, I'm from the BIFM, the British Institute of Facilities Management. I'm the director of Insight there. Like my dad keeps reminding me, and he's right, it's not a real job. I get to go to conferences and talk an awful lot. I get to read and write an awful lot, but it's not a real job at all. So don't tell anyone at BIFM, but I've been getting away with it for so long. But we made an announcement on the 1st of March that we intended, and at this moment in time it's still an intention, to change our name. The reason it's an intention is because our members have to vote their approval for it, and that's happening on the 5th of July this year. But we have said to the membership that we intend to change our name to the Institute of Workplace and Facilities Management. And what's really interesting about that, we also announced an intention in the long term to achieve chartered status within the UK. That's something that the Queen's Privy Council awards to organisations. That's kind of a long-term aim. That's something that sits separate to this. But this argument, this debate, sparked a lot of conversation, an awful lot of conversation. A lot of conversation about a word. And it really was almost as complicated as that. It was about a word and what it meant and what was in front of the other word. Is it in front of FM? Is it behind FM? What's going on? And it got me thinking, because I'm not an FM. I'm not an FM practitioner. I'm 35 here, and I don't know what camp I go in now, so I'm sort of stuck in the middle, no man's land. But I'm not an FM. I spent 15 years, though, in professional associations. So previous to this, I was at the Chartered Institute of Marketing, watching marketers talk about themselves. I then joined BIFM. Briefly, I went over to work for an organisation called Leesman, which you may have heard of, do workplace effectiveness data. And then I've come back to BIFM. So about 5 years in the industry. But I'm fascinated with how people talk about FM, the profession, how they articulate some of the challenges. Because words are important. Words mean stuff to people. Stuff that I can't tell you. So as these words are flashing up, whether it's the clothes you buy, whether it's the cars you drive, whether it's the social media platforms you use or the devices that you have in your pockets, these words are instantly triggering things off in your brain, emotional responses that I'm not controlling. I am not telling you anything about these guys. Sorry, that's a bad one, right? That's even worse, right? So, these words, I'm not trying to sell you anything about these. You will all have your opinions on them, and they will all be different. Your experience of them will all be different. Just from a word, a spoken word, a written word. Emotional response. It's what marketers for years have been working on with branding. When you see their brand, they want you to have an emotional response to it without them having to say anything to you, right? So words are important. Now, why am I talking about brands at an FM conference? Partly because it's a nice break, but, right, it happens in professions as well. So, marketing. Is anyone working marketing here? I just probably should check before I slag them off. No? Okay, good. Because in marketing, we work with marketers though, right? You know, everyone here know a marketer, right? Colouring in department. They do pictures and stuff, right? Websites, fluffy stuff, adverts, right? Anyone working sales here? There's got to be a salesperson in here at an FM conference. Yes, sorry sir, you're a cowboy. Is that Simon? No, it's not. I thought I knew you there as well. But cowboys, park your horse outside. But they're cowboys, right? And HR, well, they just stop stuff from happening. And IT, they stop more stuff from happening. Right? So we do this all the time. We're sitting there, look, yeah, we're laughing at the other professions. But what do you think they see when they see this? What do you think they're talking about at their conference when they talk about this? Right? So I don't know if it translates, okay? So we've got janitor, right? I don't know if it translates outside of the UK, but there's only one reason anyone says the word facilities without being at an FM conference. And it's normally when you're in a pub with your friends and they say, do excuse me, I need to use the facilities. Right? So we've just been talking about attracting the new generation in. If they know nothing about FM and then they see that, what are we doing? Who called it this? Whose fault is this? I get to ask to talk a lot on panels in the UK, and again, it's something we talk about all the time. We're the Cinderella profession. No one knows we're here, and sometimes I think we're actually proud of that. Oh, no one knows we're here. Haven't we done such a good job? Why will no one listen to us? Because no one knows you're here. That's, you know, it's like this, all this sort of contradiction that's floating around in this whole thing. We keep saying we want to be in the boardroom. We have to be in the boardroom. Every conference I go to, we should be in the boardroom. I mean, I don't know how big we think this boardroom is, but every profession wants to be in the boardroom. All of them. That's the biggest one I can find, right? We should be in the boardroom. We'll be in the boardroom. That'll solve it all. We need to be more strategic. FM conference bingo, there we go, full house. We've got the whole lot. That word strategic, and this is from years in marketing, right, is the most overused and least understood word in the English language. No one knows what that actually means, but they keep using it because I sound important. Right? I don't buy into this idea of strategic FM being a solve-all. We can't solve it by going, see, yesterday I was just an FM. But today, strategic FM. Where's the keys to the boardroom? Right? Which seat is mine? Right? We can't just do it. It's about actions. So we've got this like perennial problem. We're constantly moaning, and we've seen it this way. We should talk to people outside of this room. We should be more strategic. Organisations don't understand us. When's it going to stop? How does it stop? Now, meanwhile, out in the world, what does strategic mean to organisations? Well, it means they're looking into the future. They're thinking about what are their problems in 10 years' time. How do we respond to that? Now, that's strategy. Okay? Now, what they're looking at, one of the things they're looking at is this. Now, I know it's boring, okay? We say it every conference, war for talent, yawn, yawn, yawn. But it's a real problem. It's a real problem. There's a reason that the big four management accountancy firms have got bases here in Bulgaria, because they realised that this was a talent market they hadn't tapped yet. So it was a race to get here, right? Because there was talent. Now, one of the most competitive areas for this war for talent is on the west coast of America, where all the tech firms are exploding and growing quicker than anyone could have possibly imagined any organisation would grow. And they want the best developers, the best innovators, the best creative people they could possibly get into their organisation. And there's a number of things that they're doing to get that. But one of the things they're doing is leveraging their working environments to bring talent in. Now, I've got a bit of an issue. I use this, and I was a bit annoyed with myself that I used this. Slides in FM presentations, very boring, I know. There's an actual thing with the Google slide, and Fanula, who was here yesterday from Dublin, but she's not here now. I was at the BIFM Ireland conference. Did you know that the Google slide is actually part of the induction process. Anyone know that? You're not allowed to go down it until you've passed your induction. And then you get that tap on the shoulder, you stay in, down you pop, right? So it's all part of the DNA. Anyway, but we've started to see working environments being leveraged and being used and being advertised as a reason to work at this organisation. This is our moment. This is it. This is the workplace that we're in charge of. This is it. Thank you very much. Wait for that door to open and we'll be in. But it's not happening. Now, I think part of that is people, not us not understanding what we're doing, but other people understand what we're doing. Now, I am astutely aware that I am surrounded by academics. Some people have probably written these things that I've just put up. Ian just mentioned one of them. I think part of the problem is how we talk about ourselves. Right? And we put these things in there, so you can see a number of the different associations that say these are our definitions of FM. You can see some commonality between them. People, place, process, brilliant, great, all that. But for me, it doesn't pass the test. And it's an important test. It's the pub test. Because if you're in a pub or in a bar or at a party or at some friends' houses and they say to you, "What do you do for a living?" Whew, okay, here we go. So this is Bill and Ted. They've just come out of university, just passed their undergrad course, and they're talking, having a chat over a pint. "Here, Bill," very English pub, by the way. "Here, Bill, what's this idea you've got a new job?" "I'm an FM, Ted." "What's that then?" "Well, I'm responsible for the function which integrates people, place and process within the built environment with the purpose of improving the quality of life of the people, the productivity and the core business." Ian, where was the commas and the full stops? For crying out loud. Oh, woof, breathe. Right you are, Bill. No one knows what that means outside of here. Language is important. They don't know what you're talking about. So what we have to do in FM, we have to lay the groundwork first. Well, first we have to explain the world of business, and then I'll explain my bit in that, and then I'll explain what I do in that. It's hard work. You may as well lie. Just tell them you're a journalist or something, or a lawyer. They'll stop talking to you. Okay? So it's difficult. Words are important. Because if you look in Google, that's what Google thinks facilities management is. So we can write all the definitions we want. The outside world, they go here. The maintenance of an organisation's buildings and equipment. Does that sound strategic to you? Right? It's important, no doubt. But when you're a CEO putting your business together, do you sit there and go through and go, "Well, I need a marketer"? Yes, definitely. Sales, yeah. HR, yeah. Do you know, if only I had someone that could maintain my building and equipment, that's FM, right? It's important. This is what people Google. This is what people look at. Now, this guy you would have seen, no doubt. Simon Sinek has written a wonderful book on the power of why. It's a marketing book at its heart. It's about brand. But it's saying the brands that really succeed are the ones that talk about why. Not how, not what you do, why you do it. And our conferences are full of the how and full of the what. Start talking about the why. Why do you do it? It sits at the heart of every success story. So why is it that this opportunity that's landed on our laps, that organisations now think this is quite important, this thing? This guy, Michael Ashton, former Chief Marketing Officer of Hilton International Global. He's kind of respected in the marketing industry for essentially turning Hilton around. Okay. Now, he became a spokesperson for us at Chartered Institute Marketing, and he stood up at an event like this. It was a dinner. He stood up at an event like this, and now, by the way, marketers are saying, "We should be in the boardroom, we need to be more strategic, no one understands what we do," and if you go to an HR conference, they'll say the same thing. But he stood up at this event, he said, "Do you want to know why you're not in the boardroom? Do you want to know why no one's listening to you? Do you want to know whose fault it is? It's our fault. It's our fault. If you're in an organisation right now and you don't think you're being listened to, and you don't think you're being valued, and you don't think you're in the right conversation, it is no one else's fault. It can't be. We can't come to conferences year after year after year for 30 years blaming everybody but us. We blame everybody else. They don't understand us. It doesn't make any sense. When you keep talking about a problem, perhaps you're the problem. Right? That's the uncomfortable bit. We'll move on. Because they talk about FM, but they don't say FM. They say workplace. When a marketer wants to get to the top of the tree in an organization, they don't talk about email marketing. They talk about brand, about customer engagement, stuff that the chief executive cares about. They talk about workplace. However, I do accept in some organizations, facilities does ring the bell. Facilities does make sense, particularly in environments like this. So I speak to the guy that runs this stadium. He reports to the director of facilities. Brilliant. Sits on the board at Manchester City, one of the biggest clubs in the world. Well, they bought a lot of it, but let's not get into football again, Matt. Well, you beat them, so that's a good thing, right? But he calls himself stadium manager. So even here, I said to him, why do you call yourself the stadium manager? Oh, I'm fed up with explaining facilities. It's just easier. Stadium manager, great. So even there, they're having to work out different language to get an idea across. Because when you Google workplace, that's what you get. A place where people work, such as an office or a factory. Oh, that makes sense to me now. I manage that. Brilliant, cool. Get on with your drink. What do you want? It's important. Now, just to sort of give you some of the, as we're flashing here, but Ian finished early, so did Felicia finish. I'm going to use some of your time. But we get told, as we put this out, we got responses back. It's a fad. This workplace thing is just what conferences are calling themselves now to make it sound more sexy. I'm sitting there going, and that's the argument against? We're the profession trying to be sexy, and we're saying, oh, that's just the sexy talk, that is. Is it a fad? Well, a fad's something that's intense and widely shared enthusiasm and short-lived. That's what a fad is. You can see I spent a lot of time on Google here, right? This is short-lived. News for you. This is the history of IFMA. This is their foundation of that organisation. As FM grew, this is their words, not mine. As FM grew, those tasked with overseeing the new workplace were in need of guidance. The workplace guys, hello, 1970, they were talking about it then. We just forgot. We got obsessed with the industry. We got obsessed with outsourcing. We got obsessed with cost management. And we forgot what it was all about in the first place. Managing these workplaces that our people are in. I also laughed as well because there's their first conference, facilities influence on productivity. Wow, we've been talking about productivity a long time. And we still talk about productivity for a long time. I also get told it's just part of FM. So we saw the mind map yesterday. It's just part of it. Workplace is just one of the things that we do. I think we might be looking down the wrong end of the telescope here. I think. Because I could see David Emmanuel was there. David Emmanuel is there. I'm going to gladly steal this from you, right? So, there's nothing wrong with stealing as long as you're referencing. See, researchers, lecturers, I'm referencing. It's not a Harvard reference, just Dave over there. But I think sometimes when FM says that, what they're talking about is workplace with a little w. A workplace project, a move, a refurbishment, a redesign. We're obsessed, we think workplace is a design thing. No. We're talking about workplace with a big W. The discipline, the role, the profession. Our role in that organisation is to create wonderful, productive, enjoyable working environments. That's the net effort. That's the net result. We need to get our heads around this idea that Mark touched on yesterday, that workplace is not just an office. That's another thing that we do all the time. These are all workplaces. All of them. People work here. The problem is that maybe its primary function. It's mixed use. I like to call these mixed use workplaces, right? But what a wonderful world it would be if we treated hospitals like a workplace. If we treated hospitals from the doctor out. What is it that the doctors and the medical staff need to do their job most effectively? I tell you something that will have a positive outcome on patients. 100%. Workplaces. These are workplaces. And workplaces is not just a building. And I'm in danger of touching on sort of well-used rhetoric at these conferences. But it's not just a building. We did some research that comes with this announcement. And we asked FMs,
How do you see the role of FM? On one side of the spectrum, on the left-hand side, it's managing the spaces where people work, the buildings, the physical space. At the other end of the spectrum, it's enabling people to work wherever they need to. And we asked FMs to put themselves on that. And you can see it's shifted. It's not about the building. The building just happens to be our tool. It is not about the building anymore. Organizations don't care about the building. They care about what goes on inside it. And we can influence that. We can manage that. However, we can't just call ourselves workplace managers and it changes, because we haven't got the skills, frankly. Because we need to start to understand culture. We need to start to truly understand technology. I tweeted yesterday after Stan about our understanding of technology, because at the moment it's woeful, right? We keep talking about technology, but we don't genuinely understand what it is, what it's going to do. We are coming from the space side of it, right? That much is true. But for this to work, these all have to work together. So it's about, think about this, it's like all the stuff we do, all the stuff we've talked about, is why are we doing it? Why are we in our organizations doing it? So when you see workplace in our name, when you see workplace in our initials, think about it in two ways. Yes, it represents workplace, but it all represents our why. It's what we're here to do. It's our role in the organization. Now, I did see the briefing, no logos, and I've put the biggest logo up yet, right? But don't worry, this is a bit self-humiliating, I guess. For 25 years, IWFM has claimed to be advancing the profession, but we're still talking about no one understands what we're doing. We have failed. As an organization, we have woken up to the fact that we have failed to advance the profession. We've done some good work around standards, around qualifications, but we have failed to truly advance the profession. Now, that feels uncomfortable because we're part of the problem. But when you're part of the problem, you can be part of the solution. Everyone in here that feels like they're not valued, everyone in here that feels like they're not understood, you can actually do something about it. This is not someone else's doing, right? We're in control of this. We can be that change, right? It's it's an old Gandhi quote, be the change you want to see in people. Do something about it. Go and grab someone's attention. They just cut me off. Time's up, buddy. Right, that's me. Thank you very much. Thanks for your attention. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Cheers.